Hey, welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, we hear untold stories, and we explore the minds of some brilliant people behind some of the finest ambient music out there. My name is Mike Graff. I make music as Dear Gravity. Really glad to be here together with you. I had a great conversation today with James Bernard, who is one half of Wandering Souls, with his wife Cynthia, who we've had on the podcast recently as well. James is also on staff at Spectrasonics, which I'm sure if you have been in the music production space for a while, you have probably used a Spectrasonics product or two. And there's some other wild twists and turns along the way of all the things that James has touched. He has been making music in the ambient space for over 3 decades and has no signs of slowing down. I had a lot of fun connecting over just a multitude of different subjects and kind of the plumb line that tied it all together, the freedom that he operates with and all he says and does. Just was a great conversation. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we get there, if you haven't done so already, come and join All Ambient on Discord. Link is in the show notes. You're going to want to be there for the discussion. You're going to want to be there for community with others, getting to meet a bunch of great people, a bunch of other great musicians, some in the ambient genre, the ambient world, but also beyond that, just some really great musicians and producers and friends. If you want to get in on any of the discussions that we're going to talk about on today's episode, if you have any questions for James, if you have any feedback on the episode or stuff that you want to hear in future episodes, come on over and join All Ambient on Discord. Or you can always email us at podcast@all-ambient.com. Please do so. Also, feel free to check out our website at all-ambient.com. We have some really exciting things coming to you in just a little bit. You're going to see some friendly faces. You're going to see some new resources and tools. We're really excited about it. We will be rolling that out in the near future, but do not hesitate to go check out all-ambient.com. One of the features that will be showing up very quickly is a search feature within the licensing section where you can punch in any release or track from the labels that are represented by the All Ambient family, and it will give you an immediate response on where you are able to license that track from, which is just awesome. Just a great resource. So check it out at all-ambient.com. Enough of that. Let's not waste any more time. Here is my conversation with James Bernard. Man, I am excited today, and every day is a good day at the All Ambient podcast, but certainly today, with the chance to sit down with James Bernard. James, welcome to the All Ambient podcast, man. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So with the list of things that I could use to introduce you, it is not a short list, and I love that. That makes me so happy.
Sorry, I've been busy.
That's the best thing, man. Way to model that well for us. I love not only that there's a bunch of projects going on, but also, I sometimes think the term multi-hyphenate is a little silly, but honestly, I think it describes you very well. All the different pieces of the music process of creating art, of all the different ways that you can create in a meaningful way. I see that in you. So James, you've been making music for over 3 decades. You've been doing that for, and I drug back through the list, through the catalog.
That's what's released.
Well, there you go.
That's the stuff you've heard.
Oh man, I love that. Absolutely. And so, I mean, the catalog is beautiful. Then to look at not only that, but some of the stuff that, and I'm sure you've got even more projects, more monikers than I'm even going to begin to touch on here, but certainly noted that you and your lovely wife, Cynthia, who we've just had on the podcast recently, who makes music as Marine Eyes, you guys also make music together as Awakened Souls, which I absolutely love. Just incredible. I did mention it to Cynthia when she was on, but when we were first starting to talk to just to both of you, I grabbed one of the I forget the name of the vinyl that I got from Awakened Souls, one of the sleep releases, or the sleep release, and I'm really enjoying that one. Yeah. Yep.
That'd be Night Songs.
Absolutely loving that one. Then speaking of Awakened Souls and all that, not only are you on the artist side, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but James, you're also part of the label team, right? Behind Past Inside the Present. Is that true?
Yeah, I help with some label development, and I'm also in-house mixing and mastering engineer as well. So I do majority of what's going. Well, myself and Drew Sullivan, Slow Dancing Society.
Yeah.
Also, he does some mastering too. So we're both kind of the in-house mastering engineers. But I've been doing a lot of the mastering for the P releases, and also a number of mixing as well. But development side, I also kind of lend my ear and my eyes to projects when they come through and give my opinion, whether it's educated or whatever. I don't know, but it's my opinion from what makes the ears tingle, basically.
Yep, you've earned it from proving your taste over just a great track record. Oh, it's kind of like a pseudo, maybe it's wrong to say, like a pseudo executive producer without having to like be an executive.
Yeah, I mean, it's Zach is Zach Frizzell. He's the main the main guy at Pippi. So we have a number of us that kind of help. It's more of a collective. So I wouldn't know that I would be, sort of high up as like, I'm the executive producer. No, I just, I've got an opinion. I've got to say it's part of the whole kind of team. Other than the mixing and mastering side of things.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. And then, of course, and I think this was a little bit that Cynthia dropped at the end of our interview. And it just kind of was like, wait, there's another thing. And that other thing is that, James, you were also on the team at Spectrasonics, I believe. Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Spectrasonics.
I am at the team at Spectrasonics. Yes.
Of whom I have been a fan of for a long time. I love what
you and me both.
The whole team. There we go, man. Seriously. I mean, just the model, and there's so many ways this conversation could go, and I'm so excited about that. But I love, there's some really intentional things inside of all the Spectrasonics products that just feel so much more lifelike and organic and musical than maybe some of the counterparts out there, or some of the comparables. And I love what you guys are up to. It's amazing. It's
definitely in the approach. I appreciate that. And it's nice to hear that what our intention is with the instruments in creating these, every sound in any one of our instruments is its own instrument, and that's kind of
absolutely
the thought process of making the tools for people to be able to use to express what they're feeling in music. That is something that nobody at the company, nobody on the team takes lightly. We are all musicians. We're all passionate about music, and to have that translate into sound that you can play under your fingers is something that Eric has been doing for forever, and you can feel his energy, his drive throughout the company. And it's just a wonderful team to be part of. And that's something I've been with Spectrasonics now for about 10 years. I think that this year is 10 years, but I've known Eric since the 90s. I was working with Korg, and at the time we were showing the Electribes, which I helped develop the sounds on as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've gotten around in the music industry on that side of things. I was with Korg, I was with Reason, and I did a lot of stuff with them. Yeah. There's probably people that are watching now that know about all the many videos I did for them, but it's something where, when it came to the point of working with Eric after all those years of knowing him, I jumped at the chance. I was like, absolutely, of course. Yeah. Definitely want to be part of this team. And it's just been a glorious, glorious experience to be part of a team and being part of something that's so much bigger than what we're doing, to be part of the conversation of giving people the tools to express. It's just a wonderful thing to be part of. And I'm I kind of feel honored and lucky that I get to do that for a job.
Well, that's the best. I mean, the best feeling, no matter what is on our plate, to approach it with this level. And some of it sometimes is like an internal dialogue, and us being able to remind ourselves that we can say this about anything, but to be genuinely excited about what you get to put your hands to, what you get to put your heart and your brain to. I mean, that's what a gift. What a gift.
It is. It is. And I'm honored, and I don't take it lightly. I'm one of the lucky ones, right place, right time, and had the skills to back it up when the chance came. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of the way it is,
Yep. You shot the shot when the shot came, and there it is.
Got lucky. So yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, man, we're going to branch off, and it's going to be great. But before we get there, let's start back at the beginning, James. I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of where you got started in music, and maybe as early as kind of when that started popping up in your life as something that you're like, I think this is going to be something I'm going to be spending a lot of my time on for my run here on Earth. But yeah, tell me a little bit about how that peaked up on you.
Well, I don't know if I had much of a choice. It was kind of, I came out and my childhood was always being around music. My mother played piano all the time. Unfortunately, she really liked like Disney songs. So most of what I was hearing was like Under the Sea and that stuff.
Yeah. Hey, that was a good era though, man. That was a good era.
I was into synth stuff, and that wasn't really what was happening.
There you go.
But that being what it was, and then my father actually had started a school for audio engineering back in the 60s. So I was kind of always around recording studios and equipment sort of growing up. And when it came time for me to start thinking about how I was going to express myself in music, and I always loved music, but I started off kind of playing with a couple of friends in like a little cover band, and we were just doing like, whatever local, I think we were doing a lot of grunge and stuff in the 90s or so.
Yeah.
Playing bass guitar at the time. And then I went to my first rave. I was really into industrial music and electronic music in the 80s. And I went to my first rave when I was living in New York. And it was actually not just my first rave, but the first rave in the United States. It was the Bones Break. So a Bones rave. It was the Frankie Bones crew. And that happened in New York. It was like 89, 90. I don't even know. It was like around there. It was really early on. And I heard these sounds and I said, well, okay, this is cool. I like what's happening, what they're doing with sound. And I wanted to make stuff like that. So concurrently while doing that, while going to a rave, I had graduated high school, took a course at my dad's school in audio engineering. And started to learn how to become an audio engineer back then, and was working with a lot of local bands. This was in Long Island. So the local music wasn't great. It was a lot of like, cover bands doing really bad punk, and just, it wasn't amazing. And at the time, my ears were tuned in to like wanting to hear all these other sounds. I was super into King Tubby, super into different dub effects and things that were kind of like different ways of mingling and processing and doing other things with sound.
Yep.
None of which I could do with these local, punk bands. They would be really pissed if I started to go off into that place on their music. Right? So I started to play around with just ideas of electronic music, really rudimentary stuff, on an old XT running Voyager Gold, which is anyone who knows the horrible sequencing program, but what you had. And I was sort of putting together these ideas. And at the same time, I got a job through a friend working at Korg in New York, but I worked in the warehouse. I was like the guy taking the stuff off of the boxes off the truck and doing receiving and stuff. Yeah. That's where I started. But the benefit of working there was that they allowed any employees, if you asked, to take home equipment over the weekend and play with it. So I did that. And I would continually borrow synths and things over the weekend. I was finding older synths in the racks that they had forgotten about and didn't care about. I think I acquired a DSM-1 synthesizer, a sampler, and that became my sort of main hub. And I just started sort of making these things, these little ideas that were just like experiments that I could listen back to. And I would record them on DAT and then bring them with me to work and listen to them while doing my other work. I would make tapes of these ideas and stuff. Two things happened sort of concurrently too, is one day the lead sound designer at Korg, who his name is Jack Hotop, who's a good friend of mine, was coming back looking for the prototype of a new synthesizer, which at the time was the Korg Prophecy. So it was the Korg Prophecy synthesizer. It was like a prototype. And he was looking for it, and I had my music on ideas that I was playing, and he was like, what are you listening to here? And I was like, oh, that's nothing. It's just some stuff I was playing around with at home and stuff. He's like, oh, this is you. And I'm like, yeah, it's nothing. It's just like literally just experiments, Yeah. He's like, no, this sounds really cool. Like, what are you using? And I was like, well, so the DSM-1 that I'm using only has 1 megabyte of memory. So that's not a whole lot of sample time. So I take my samples and I pitch them up 2 octaves, and I sample them at 2 octaves above, and I pitch them down another 2 octaves so I can get more sample time. He's like, whoa. He's like, what are you doing back here? I was like, I'm taking boxes off the truck. He's like, no, you need to come up front and we need to get you on sound design and doing some stuff because you don't belong back here. What I'm hearing, he's like, what I'm hearing here and what you just explained to me, you have no business being back here. You need to be up front.
That's so
you need to come work with us up in the front. And then I started, the process of doing product support and then sound design. So I started doing sound design back in the 90s for Korg and a lot of the Electribes and things and different types, then different ones of their synths have sounds of mine on it. So that's kind of the journey that happened.
Era for Korg sound design too. I mean, you're at the heart of it. Wow.
Right place, right time. But concurrently, what was happening while that happened is, like I said, I would make cassette tapes for friends that were like, yo, what's that stuff you're listening to? Send me a tape. I was like, cool, send you a tape. A tape wound up in the hands of Lenny D from Industrial Strength, which was a very hardcore techno label in Brooklyn.
Yep.
Somehow he got a tape and he heard it and said, this actually is some stuff that I know my friend Casper Pound over at Rising High in the UK would like. So, somewhat respectable label, Rising High, releasing Luke Vibert and Pete Namlook and Mixmaster Morris and like all of those guys and Hard Floor, just a few people that might have been somewhat instrumental in electronic music at the time.
If
label mates.
I mean, this is just, I love this. This is awesome. Yeah.
It was one of those things where and I had no idea who they were. I had no idea who Rising High was. I was just some kid in New York listening to some industrial and rave music and The Cure and what have you. And it was like, oh, some label, they're interested. They call me up. They're interested. They're like, we want to release this. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Put out my first EP as Influx, which was a hard trance stuff. And at the same time I was doing that, hard trance ideas and stuff, like kind of listening to what I was injecting a lot of acid into my trance as well. So I did a lot of 303 in my trance, but at the same time, I had a lot of difficulty sleeping, just a lot of sort of demons from life in general and stuff. And my method of being able to get myself to sleep was to write something ambient, write something that was beatless, something sometimes with beats, but something that just was a world that I felt comfortable and accepted in, that I could then live in for a little bit on repeat in my headphones to kind of put myself into sleep. And so I just wrote a lot of that stuff and ended up, that stuff became Atmospherics, which was my first ambient album, 1994, that got released.
Wow.
So, and I just continually, that's still been what I do now. I mean, it's never changed. Music for me is not something I do. It's my life force. If I'm ever in a bad way, it's because I probably haven't been writing anything for a couple of days. It's my method of journaling. It's my method of processing everything, all of the good, all of the bad that happens. Absolutely. It's that for me. And it was that for me back then. And that started my journey. And then there's a lot more twists that went from there, but that's sort of how it all started for me.
Oh, that's so great, man. There's so many things to pick apart in that, but first, thank you for sharing it and just being vulnerable and transparent with all that. But man, just what a joy that, like you shot your shot in a sense with just, listening to your stuff and all that, but it wasn't as though you were like, deviously planning to try to sneak up to the front office at Korg or anything. You were just like, this is what I love to do. I'm at a killer company. I'm working in the back. I'm just working with, the limitations that I currently had. And I love, just how creative you were being with the octave flipping and all that. And for that to then catch the ear of somebody who was able to offer opportunity that you definitely stepped into full force.
I did.
I love that. I mean, it wasn't like you were waiting for permission for someone to tell you that, like, oh, hey, you can do this. I mean, the opportunity was beautiful and you rose to it, but also like it was just a part of who you were. And it wasn't, the lack of a role at that point wasn't going to stop you from doing it. And I didn't have any preconceived notion of what I was supposed to or not supposed to do, or what I had the right to do, I never suffered from imposter syndrome during that time, because I think there's also was a lot, the 90s were magical in that you didn't have so much constant barrage of like other people doing it at the same time and daily you're seeing people like, these days it's a little different. Imposter syndrome is very, very much real and a thing that a lot of artists deal with. But back then you could be in your own little world and just be like, I'm creating this weird little stuff
and putting it out and cool. If people like it, cool. If people don't like it, that's cool too. I don't care. I'm just having fun. And it was a different thing where I feel like there wasn't as much of a sort of critical, like you're supposed to be doing it this way, or that doesn't fit into this genre or anything like that. It was much more just like, here's what's coming out. Here it is. And even with sound design as well, and jumping into that role of making sounds. I mean, I was playing in waters that I had no business being in. I mean, Jack O'Top he's an incredible sound designer and took me under his wing and was showing me things. I didn't even know what a cutoff was on a filter back then. Like I literally was like, had an SH-101 going like, I don't know what these knobs do. And I learned, you know what I mean? And I learned as I went. I made mistakes and I was like, oh, when I turn that, the pitch does this weird thing. Oh, that's LFO and that's modulation on that. I get it. Like, you know, it's just sort of figuring things out as I went and allowing myself to make mistakes and embrace those mistakes as part of the process, you know,
instead of like, oh, that was the catastrophe that's going to end everything. And
I mean, I even recently had somewhat recently put out on my Bandcamp some of the DATs of some of the very first stuff I've ever wrote.
I saw that. That was really cool.
And I'm like, there it is, warts and all, man. Like some of the stuff is like, it ain't great. But here it is. That's where I started. Here's like one of the first songs I ever recorded. There it is. You know, like that's where it came from. You know, but like whatever, it exists. It's a moment in time. You know,
very much so. Well, honestly, and I think you know what you're talking about with the removal of imposter syndrome, or just being able to live, you know, outside of that set of shackles. Really, that's what everybody, like, even though the rules are kind of different in a sense, you know, a handful of decades later, everyone wants that. Like, I think what you're talking about is essentially like, this is hashtag goals, right? Like this is like, let's get to the place where it is more important for me to engage deeply with the thing that I think is supposed to be brought into the world through my particular set of creative, whatever talents, you know, create the thing that I happen to put my hands to, as opposed to, you know, how calculated does this need to be? And what am I establishing by putting this out on this date, on this label, at this season, on this genre, on this length, on this platform, on like, those are not bad details, but if they dictate the creative journey as opposed to you know, maybe some of the questions you ask after you've created something great, that, you know, you've put the cart before the horse. So thanks for modeling that well, man. I love that. And you own it. Like I can hear it in your voice. Like
there's never a concern. I'm not like, you know, and half the time I've got so many albums of stuff that I don't even know what to do with, because like, what was the intention behind it? I don't know. I was in a space. I was in a zone. I was feeling something. And this culmination of works was that. Sometimes I can't even put to words like what the emotion or what this feeling is. So like some of the names of my songs are like just like, oh man, you know, let's see, with Norns Volume 1, this into this. Here's the gear I use. There's the song. But like, if you were to take the song and look at the name of it and just write it off, you'd be like, yeah, that's whatever. That's nonsense. But then you listen to it. There's actually, you know, in everything I do, I can't help but inject, Cynthia calls them my little like sort of bard-like motifs, these little like melodies. These are these songs, these little, they're moments, and I expand upon those, but whatever. But there's always some emotion attached to them. And whether or not I indicate that in the title of the song, it's just because of my sheer laziness as an artist to even give a damn about what the name of the song is. I don't care. It's whatever you want to call it here.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you know,
that's so
that
cool.
kind of a thing. And I know that probably I'm shooting myself in the foot by not putting so much intention into that part of it, the packaging and presenting it, because that's kind of what people take away sometimes. But maybe I need someone that can do that for me.
Well, you know,
here's the thing, make it cool.
It's both sides of the coin. It's like you know, even if one, well, and I love that humility, and where you're just like, well, that, you know, maybe I could, but at the same time, to own what you do really well and what things you're like, yeah, that's, you know, that's not really a concern. I was just reading the other day, it's having a list of the things that you do and a list of the things that you don't do. And it's not that the things that you don't do aren't valuable. It's that the things that you don't do, that if you were to attempt to do them, how much of getting in the way of the things that you are supposed to do would trying to, check off things on that secondary list be. And that's, everyone talks about that, and the idea of narrowing down, write down your top 25 ideas. And it's like, cool. Do I just go in order? It's like, no, you scratch off the, number 6 through 25. Because if you have a list of 25, you're never going to get to your top 5 ever. Like you got to accomplish, something.
Yeah.
So I love you're embodying that in a way that is inspiring. You're embodying that in a way that,
thanks.
You can have, you can get a team, you can get someone to do this and that. And like, those things are great, but you're keeping the main thing. And I love that. Yeah.
It's interesting coming from a time when, as an artist, we made the thing, we give it to the label does what it does with the thing. It puts it out, gets it out to the world. The people who do the DJ charts, the reviews, they do their thing, and they take this thing and say, here's what our impression is of it, what have you. And there is a beauty in being able to, as an artist, create something and then remove yourself away from the marketing.
I'm with you. Yep.
Now is it imposed on us as artists to be everything. We have to be the artist. We have to create this. We have to pull magic from the air, make it into something palatable so that we can offer it to you. And now we've got to wrap it up and package it and make it look nice and do a little video that shows you why you should listen to this thing. And it's too much.
Yeah.
So as a creative, we are not supposed to do everything. We're not. Yeah. There are people that are really good at art. There are people that are really good at marketing. There are people that are really good at taking something and making it palatable and understand what is the point of this thing that you created so that other people will get it. Because sometimes as artists, we don't know necessarily how people are going to, what's going to be the thing that people can hear and see to understand what we're trying to say. Some artists have that, and that's great. And I think that's a rare thing when an artist has all of that wrapped into themselves.
Yeah.
And that is something that should not be expected of every artist. And when it has become this thing where, like, to be successful as an artist, you have to produce, promote, be your own manager, be your own videographer, be your own this, it's putting too much pressure on the art itself. It's putting too much pressure on the act of creation. The act of creation should be purely, and always been, as for me, and I know it is for Cynthia as well, it's purely about, how am I processing this moment that I'm in now with all of the beauty and the pain and everything else that's swirling around my head? How do I process that and memorize this moment and put this in a place where I can convey that to someone else so that when you hear this, you could kind of feel that and be there with me, or feel that you're not alone in feeling those things. You know what I mean? And so that part of art, whether it be art in graphics, art in poetry, art in music, that part is the most important part. And that part cannot be rushed. That part cannot have preconceived notions of where it's going to go and who's going to buy it. I don't give a damn. That has nothing to do with why we're creating. We're creating because we have to. And if we don't create, we die inside. Right? That's for me. That's what Cynthia, I know we're both the same in that way.
Yeah. Man, spitting wisdom right now, James. This is just so good.
Spitting what's coming out. This is me, man.
Yeah. It's so good, man. I've got more questions for you, but before we get too far away, and I've said it on the podcast before, but my first real venture into starting to sequence things and starting to really play around with what sound design looks like and all that was on at the church that we grew up at. The music guy had. He bought an O1W Pro X and was so gracious to, and at the time, that was an investment at the time, and so gracious to let this, like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11-year-old kid who could have easily, like, spilled a Mountain Dew over the thing and just fried it.
The Pro X was the big one too. Yeah.
Well, yep. Oh, it was no slouch. Yeah. I think we had I wound up convincing my folks to get the smaller version of it for at home, but that was it just there was a whole world that all of a sudden got opened up to me, and it's just, yeah. And so cool to be talking about the era that you were involved in. And then, for like the Electribes, just for everything that was, about to come right out of that. That was a real influential, and certainly I'm one of countless artists, countless musicians who really discovered a lot thanks to what you and what everyone at Korg was up to through kind of that era. And just so thanks, man. Grateful for it.
Of course.
It was awesome.
I will say though, so you used the ONW. That was the actual sequencer and keyboard I used for all of Atmospherics. That was the sequencer.
Yep.
And all of it was doing was muting and unmuting stuff. Nothing was actually sequenced. I just had continual loops. So I didn't try to do arrangements back then because, as you know, that screen is like tiny. And trying to actually range out your sequence is like,
it's a little different than today.
It's partly why I have to wear glasses. So when I'm driving, it's because the screens were so small and all of the little text, and it's like. But I digress.
Oh, that's so good. I love that, man. Well, James, okay, so you wear a lot of hats, you spin a lot of plates. That is an awesome thing. And I love, and certainly just like hearing your passion for it. Like, I know that all of these things bring life to you in unique ways. And yet I also, all the things have unique challenges in their own unique ways. I am curious, and this is different for everybody, but I am curious from your perspective, like, how do you, the beginning of the question is, what does an average day or week look like? Or if there is such a thing as average, but then like further beyond that is like, have you found a way where you're able to satisfy your own inner desire to kind of balance all the things like, hey, I really want to press into, this particular moniker lane. I really want to press into what I'm doing, at Past Inside the Present, with what I'm doing with Cynthia, with what I'm doing at Spectrasonics, and some of them being more time bound, like being on the clock here as opposed to something that's less time bound. But then, of course, the fact that you're married, lovely family with your kids, trying to balance it all. How do you balance it all in a way that satisfies that inner, like, man, this is a good thing that I'm doing all these things? Because there are days where I love all the different things that I get to touch, and yet also there are days where I'm like, man, I really should probably weed down my life to like 2 of these things. And of course, like, it's a little off the cuff. I'm irritated at something, and I'm glad that I don't throw the other stuff away at that moment. But I'm still learning how to spin the plates in a way that still brings me the kind of life that I know it's supposed to. So feel free, speak into all of it. And I'm selfishly the first one who's learning from all this. So I love it.
Of course. I wish I could give you some really beautiful overarching mantra. Not
the point. Don't feel any pressure.
How I do this, but I don't. I have absolutely no preconceived process on how it all works. Wow. I'm literally taking each day as it comes. And I've kind of, I guess if there's one thing, it is that, and that is to move with it as it happens and try to just meet the moment.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes if I stop and think too much about everything that I have to do, it will feel overwhelming. I don't tend to think too far ahead. I tend to look at the day and say, okay, what's my day? What's my schedule for today? Obviously, there's some projects that have a timeline and have a deadline, and I try to stick to things like that with some reminders and notes. I'm really horrible with to-do lists. Cynthia is wonderful with it, so thank God for her. And I would say probably
out well like that. That's good.
I would say probably half of the reason I get anything done now is because she's so good at that. So she's always like, hey, that thing you were supposed to be working on, aren't you supposed to be doing that instead of messing around on the Norns right now? And I was like, oh yeah, thanks, I'm supposed to be doing that. Thanks. Yeah, that's right. Wait, I should probably put the OP1 down. But I, one thing I have found that has helped me to center is that I do try to at least once a week go away. And I go to the mountains. So we live out here in Southern California, and we are lucky in that where we are situated in LA County, we're either an hour away from the beach or an hour away from the mountains where there is literally nobody. I mean, I can go up there and I will not hear any piece or sound of other humans if I choose to. There's places I know I can go where I can just be completely off the grid, but not off the grid, because there actually, for some reason, is cell reception up there. So I'm able to actually still be reached. And if I need to check in about anything at home, I can be. But what I've been doing on these sort of sessions is I usually bring some sort of musical equipment that is battery operated. And sometimes I will work on music. Sometimes I will just sit there and listen to a loop that I made that is just kind of on repeat. And I'm laying out in the woods and looking up at the redwood trees and just hanging out there. And other times it will be nothing. And I will just be I'll have a field recorder going and just listening to nature and the sounds around me. And even if I'm only up there for an hour, it is a complete reset for me.
Yeah.
And I try to make it a meditation where I'm not up there thinking about anything that's going on down here, down back at home or any work or anything. I'm trying to just think, this is my hour retreat.
Yeah.
And if you think about even just once a week doing that, there's something that helps me to kind of carry on, to get back to the crazy, come back home and be like, all right, good. There's cups all over the place from the kids and, or something like that. It's just like stuff's going on. Wow.
Yeah.
So back into the madness that can happen. And partially another thing that Cynthia and I both do too, is that we have these sort of moments that we call time shifting. And it will be like when we know we've got a lot stacked up in a day, we'll be like, okay, cool. We just finished one thing that was like pretty intense. Before we start on the next thing, we're going to lay on the bed and just like put on our headphones with noise canceling and just be. Just like nothing. We're off the grid for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And we time shift for 10 minutes. And it's sort of like a moment of just saying like, I am not doing anything. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not even listening to music. I want nothing. I want complete silence. It's almost like going into like, like a float or something like that, where you're just like in deprivation mode. And just trying to sort of find that slight little moment and put yourself in there. And we've done it enough. I feel like we're really good at when we're like, okay, time to time shift. When she'll say like time shift, we both are like immediately can go into that place and can shut it down.
Well, that's such a great
So that's a
model.
benefit. Yeah, that's a benefit.
I love that, man. Well, and it's, for you to establish some rhythms, that it's the beauty of the fact that we are creatives, is that certainly it is something that we get to fortunately say that this is our work, right? That we are satisfied, we are filled emotionally because of the work that we do. But then even just outside of that, we say a lot of things that help mental and emotional well-being, that translates to all of life being that much better. And certainly, your work and the things that you're spending time in there, but then all of it, just your resting state of mind and who you are with your, with Cynthia and with the rest of your family. And I love, the thing that I try to keep reminding myself is that every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to plenty of other things. So be really intentional about the things that you are saying yes to, and remind yourself there's a reason why you're saying yes to it. And so I hear, a rhythm like being out on your own, once a week and that sort of thing. And I'm sure there are some people who are like, that's really cool. How would I ever fit that into my calendar, sort of thing? But the truth is that if you were to do it, like if you were to put your shiny rectangle away for a handful of hours on whatever day a week, there could be something really not just special in the sense of what you were saying, like creating and having the moments of inspiration in that, but also just for your overall well-being and establishing a healthy life rhythm like that. I love that, man. That's, and like you said, you kind of said it earlier, like, I wish I had kind of a formula. I just do this and really, and I'm not saying it's a formula, but it sounds like with some of the rhythms like that you've started to attach, or that you have been attaching to your life, that then just puts you in a healthier place to do the different things that spiderweb off of that main hub.
It helps. It definitely helps.
I love that. Yeah, it makes it less insane. It makes it less.
In no way do I come back completely zened out and pass through life as like this completely zen creature. I'm from New York, so I kind of give off this little somewhat abrasive personality sometimes to people.
Sure.
And I will say that when you're talking about all of the yeses that you say, and that means you're saying no to some things. I'm kind of the person that normally, when you first ask me something, I'm starting out at no. I'm pretty much starting out at no. You have to convince me why it's a yes. I mean, and not in a bad way. I'm like, okay, cool. That's great. Talk more.
Yeah.
I'm not yes. I'm
Yeah.
not a yes,
Yeah.
but let's talk.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe. I'm in a maybe. But to me, it's sort of like, I know that I have so many things at any given moment that I do need to be doing, that
Yeah.
whenever I'm asked for, like, okay, this is coming from you, this is some time of yours, I'm like, all right, so like you're saying, what am I dropping then?
Mhm.
Because it's not like I'm sitting around with, like, nothing but free time during the day. Wish I could do
Yep.
something. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
We have 5 kids, 4 of which are still at home. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's full on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just that is full on. And they're teens. So, there's all of the roller coasters that are happening there. But, that alone is enough. But then you've got the professional life with multiple basically jobs that we're working here with Press Inside, with Spectrasonics, with their own music. It's a lot, but all of those creative things feed the drive to keep going. You know what I mean? Because we're lucky, and I'm lucky enough that the things that are my busy work are actually creative.
Mm-hmm.
And not like I'm having to do some grueling job that is like really not what my passion is. And I have done that for many years in the past. And I know that feeling, and I know what that's like. And to just be in the place that we're at now, I know I'm lucky, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
And I will not, and I don't take it lightly, and I don't take advantage of the opportunities that life has given me. And I try to give back as much as I can, because I have been so lucky and been given so many opportunities. I mean, life has definitely thrown, us some curves, and me some curves in there. And losing my wife back some time ago to leukemia was a thing that would really derail most people. And it did derail me for a bit. And I was able to pull myself up out of that place and keep going for the sake of my family and myself. But, life can throw things at you. It's all about how you bounce back, and what is your drive? Why are you moving forward? And for me, every day moving forward is because there is so much beauty still that can happen in a day. And I try to still find that, just in some way.
Man. Such excellent wisdom, and thank you. I know I've said a couple times already, but not just speaking that with your words, but modeling that well, like with your life, with your actions. Something that I think we can all ingest a lot of. Oh, hey, that sounds like a good idea, or hey, I should put this into practice. But for you to be met with circumstances like that, like with your late wife, and it's like, okay, what now? To be able
Plan
to,
B.
and the ups and downs are so wild, and yet there is value to just being able to take that next step, even if we're unaware of what's waiting beyond that step. Just thank you for being brave enough to do so, instead of, and rightfully so, like how, gosh, this could be a whole episode in and of itself. And I know we got to wrap, but just the idea of like, okay, that's it. This is my mental and emotional state for the rest of my run here on Earth. Like, okay, but and for the reality of that heartbreak, and also to just take the next step, whatever that looks like. Yeah, it's not an easy one, and so thank you for modeling that well. Yeah,
and I would not have gotten as far as I've gotten in that process had it not been for meeting Cynthia and our love and her support and her guidance, and finding ways to embrace the hard parts and work through them, as opposed to try to do what you can to dull them and avoid them. That's a lesson I'm still learning. I have got a lot still to learn in life and ways to be, and I'm constantly messing up, and I will own it. I will own when I've said or done something to hurt someone, and try my best not to continue to do that. And if it happens again, be like, I'm sorry, I did it again. And that's what being human is, right? Is at least hopefully learning from as we're going, and trying to be the best version of ourselves that we can be,
Yeah, man. James, I am horribly disappointed that we have to wrap this conversation. And that's one of the best feelings. I mean, clearly, I think you've been so generous with your time. Thank you for being here. I would love for this to not be the end of the conversation. We'd love to have you back by all means. And certainly to have, it would be a blast to have, I mentioned it to Cynthia as well, but to have you guys on together to hear a little bit more about, from both of your perspectives, the Awakened Souls project, but then also what it is to be a husband and wife creative team, to be a moniker together, and also to be in a relationship together, and all the sides of that.
We have stories, man. There's a lot.
I can't wait.
We can talk for sure.
It's a good teaser for sure.
I've always said it's not, for me, the hardest part isn't talking. It's getting me to shut up.
Hey, there you go.
I can talk. I can keep going.
That's great.
But you know, obviously I don't want to take over.
We will have that conversation. It's going to be great.
Great, Mike.
Before we go, though, I'd love to hear, is there anything, I believe that there is a project at time of recording right now. It's not out yet, but by the time that this episode comes out, I believe it's going to be out in the world. Is there's something that you and Cynthia together have been working on with somebody else?
Yes. So we have a mutual friend, someone that I had met some time ago and then reconnected with, Kenneth James Gibson, who was in Bell Gardens with Brian McBride and his own projects as Dub Loner and Appendix Shuffle. And Kenneth's been doing it for a hot minute as well. We kind of what happened was we had done a remix for Kenneth, and the remix that we did, he loved it so much that he was like, man, you guys, I'd love to do something together. And so we were like, yeah, let's do it. And this project, came to life pretty quickly and shaped and formed itself pretty magically. We captured magic on this album for sure. The project is called Almost an Island. That's the cover art right behind me, or piece of the cover art right there.
Easter egg this whole episode. So
yes, that was that's you'll be seeing more of that a little bit later. But the project is really exciting. We went to some different places that none of us have really done individually or together before. It's sort of a cosmic journey through ambient Americana with shades of, like, there's some jazz brush drums in there that I put in, and then, like, there's some, and we're actually all singing at points, and it's a full on album that is a journey. Yeah. And we're really proud of it, really excited for it to come out. So I'm excited for you to hear it too. I can't wait to hear what you think of it.
Can't wait. Well, by the next time, hopefully, maybe I'll just have to delay when we do our next with you and Cynthia together until after it's come out, so I can give it a good and proper listen, and then we can geek out together on that a little bit. But,
for sure, yeah.
But man, it's so fun. I can't wait to listen. We'll make sure as the episode drops after the release that it'll be in the show notes and all that. But man, James, thank you so much for not just sharing your time, but sharing your heart and
thank you, Mike.
Again, like this has just been so valuable, not just in the sense of like little wisdom nuggets or this and that, but also just for there to be that model of how to do this genuinely. And there are bumps along the road, and it's not all going to be smooth and all that, but just thank you for just being transparent with that. And here's to the journey, man. You got so much more great stuff coming, and I just can't wait to be a fly on the wall and be an observer of it. So
thank you. I'm just
your time.
Lucky, and I hope to be able to continue on this journey as long as possible.
Absolutely. I'm wishing that for you too. So good.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, man. Thanks again for joining us on the All Ambient podcast. This is about as shameless of a plug as it gets, but it really does help for those of you who are watching to give us a rating if you're on any podcast platform like Apple or Spotify or anything like that. On YouTube, we would love a follow, a subscribe, a like, all that fun stuff. And please leave a comment, a review, whatever is applicable to the right place that you're finding this. It really does go a long way. You don't have to make anything up by any means, but if there's some value in this podcast for you, we'd love to hear about it. We, as the All Ambient family, would love to meet you. I know it does my heart good, as well as everybody else who's involved at All Ambient. So please do so. Come back and join us next week. We got another great episode coming your way. And until then, here's hoping that this music and the hearts behind it make your day and your life that much better. Thanks.